Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and holy birthday, Batman! It's the 75th anniversary year of the creation of the Dark Knight himself, alter ego to Bruce Wayne, the Batman. And I thought what I'd do to commemorate this is briefly run down my top 5 favorite Batman films. From least to most favorite, I am going to start off with an honorable mention that I didn't include on the list. That is a movie I absolutely love, and I felt deserved to be talked about in some capacity in this video, and that is the 60s Batman film, starring, of course, Adam West and Burt Ward reprising their roles from the TV series at the time, which I grew up on reruns of, early on in life, and really hit me just at the perfect age to make me laugh and just be over the top with campiness and humor and stuff like that. The movie, of course, had most of the people from the TV series reprising West and Ward as Batman and Robin, respectively. You also had Cesar Romero's Joker, Burgess Meredith's Penguin, Frank Gorshin's Riddler, and in place of the original actress, you had Lee Merriweather taking over the role of Catwoman. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie is some days you can't get rid of a bomb. It's hilarious. It's absolutely over-the-top funny. But that is not part of my official top 5. What is, I'll be getting into right now. Coming in at number 5, Batman Returns. This was a movie starring, of course, Michael Keaton. It was sort of the sequel to the 1989 Batman, got a little bit darker in places, a lot more under the influence of the director Tim Burton, and featured Danny DeVito as the Penguin, as well as Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, and Christopher Walken as Max Schreck, this sort of entrepreneur businessman. And I thought it was very interesting because those 3 villains were really sort of well juxtaposed against Batman. They kind of spoke to not a duality of Batman's mind, but sort of 3 levels of Batman's mind, if you will. You had Catwoman being the costumed sort of villainous, to answer for his vigilante side, the Batman side of things. You had the Penguin, who was far beyond something Batman could ever be. He was born the way he was and was seeking vengeance, whereas Batman wanted to seek justice and righting the world to a degree. Of course, he did kill some people in the movie. And then you had Max Schreck, who was all about the money, the rich side of things, where Bruce Wayne had to deal with that side primarily. And I thought that was very interesting. Even as a kid, I was like picking up on that, like, oh wow, Max Schreck is really dealing with, because Bruce Wayne has money, that's kind of how they're matched on the playing field. With Catwoman, she is somebody who is very much like Bruce Wayne, but she's kind of making the wrong decisions that he wouldn't necessarily make. And then, like I say, with Penguin, he was really trying to seek recompense for all the hardships he accrued in his life. Hardships we can all relate to a degree, but of course he was just a sycophantic psychopath. So, coming in at number 4 was Batman Begins. And this was, of course, Christopher Nolan's first foray into the Batman, trilogy he would later create. It was a multi-layered, very complex sort of movie with different aspects to it. And, of course, we're following Bruce Wayne on his journey where he went far and away from the life he could have had. Had his parents not died, he probably would have become a rich, pompous idiot, jerk face, that kind of thing. The role he plays in public once he has turned into Batman and created this thing, or begun creating this thing, that is this symbol to rain justice and fear down upon criminals and everything. And I found it really fascinating because what Nolan essentially did, and this is something, you can't watch this movie without really understanding, was grounded it in a solid foundation of realism, but also, it allowed it to expound to sort of surrealistic, non-real world elements while keeping it as grounded as possible. And I thought it was very fascinating seeing this journey of Bruce Wayne finding himself, finding humility, understanding loss, and wanting to do something not for his own personal gain, but wanting to do something for others as a result of it. I don't want to see anyone else feeling the way I was made to feel. It's not a perfect movie by any standards, but it is a well-crafted film, and I love it. Coming in at number 3 is probably a little controversial, being that it's coming ahead of Batman Begins. That is Batman Forever, the Joel Schumacher-directed, Val Kilmer, Chris O'Donnell, Nicole Kidman, Tommy Lee Jones, Jim Carrey starring feature, which really strayed away entirely from the dark set, sort of gothic 89 Batman, or even more so, Batman Returns, and it just hit me at the right time, just brightly, it got your attention when it came out. And of course, you had Jim Carrey, who was very big at the time. I loved a lot of the stuff he was doing. I mean, he was over the top in the role as the Riddler, picking up from kind of sort of what Frank Gorshin did in the 60s series, but also adding his own thing to it. There are a lot of Jim Carrey isms in his portrayal. You had Tommy Lee Jones, which I always kind of felt a little miffed about the fact that we didn't get Billy D. Williams, who was, of course, Harvey Dent in the 89 Batman. And Chase Meridian, the love interest, of course, had a mad crush on Nicole Kidman at the time. I always really strongly felt that, Val Kilmer was a great Batman. I loved Michael Keaton, and I equally loved Val Kilmer in the fact that we saw a little bit more of what made him become Batman through flashbacks and stuff, the psychological aspects with Dr. Chase Meridian in the film. But also I remember reading at the time that Bob Kane had actually given his 2 thumbs up approval, that in his mind, this guy embodied Bruce Wayne as well as Batman. So I was like, rock on. That works for me. Chris O'Donnell was probably the most, forgettable aspect, I guess you could say. I mean, I did enjoy his Robin, but he was really whiny throughout the movie, and this got even worse in Batman and Robin. At least for me, Batman Forever didn't go quite over the top as much as Batman and Robin later would. It's kind of like they doubled up on all of the, glam, the spectacle, the craziness, the mindlessness. You had all of these different aspects coming together with, Batman having to deal with Robin, wanting to be his partner. They both had a similar background. He was trying to be mentorish, but at the same time, he wanted to still remain the loner he was and everything. And it was just, it hit me at the right time in my life. Again, the soundtrack was one of my favorites at the time that it came out and blew me out of the water. I really enjoyed it. Still very much a guilty pleasure for me today.